Hello, I'm Stephen from TEFAT, and today I'd like to talk about revenue and costs in microeconomics. There's a lot of concepts to cover. We really have to hit the ground running, and I intend to do some calculations with you at the end. I'll just align the camera correctly. There's those markings. Okay, and I'll just double check that we can see it okay. Right. So there's a lot of terms. I'll just whisk through them. First of all, profit is denoted by the mathematical pi symbol. It's the difference between total revenue minus total costs. Profit is why businesses are in business, to make a profit and distribute to the shareholders. TC is all the total costs in the firm and production, and total revenue is all their revenue derived. And it doesn't have to be just manufacturing, for an example. They may have diversification in other areas where they garner revenue as well. Firms are faced with opportunity costs, just the same as consumers, about how they use their resources. So opportunity cost in production. And they make choices on marketing or investing in new inventory. They want to maximize profit. So we're going to cover some cost curves. I just can't wait. Firstly, the definition of efficiency in production is where marginal costs, the first derivative of the cost function, is equal to marginal revenue. MR is the first derivative of the revenue function. So again, efficiency, MR equals MC. Firms choose that level of output. When you find it in the diagram and go down to the x-axis where output is, that's the efficient level of production. Remember, price is on the y-axis, but we'll get to some diagrams. If marginal revenue is greater than marginal costs, there's an opportunity to add increments of revenue, so the firm will produce more. But they stop when they get to marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Conversely, if marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue, they reduce production to get back to where MC equals MR. That's an inefficient range of production, and it impacts on profitability. So marginal revenue expressed graphically, and my source here is, I've just chosen a diagram out of economicsonline.co.uk, just there, and the date I cited it was the 14th of September. So that's www.economicsonline.co.uk. So that's the MR curve. It's below the average revenue curve, and often average revenue is price. Where prices are derived, the demand curve. Yeah, so often AR is the demand curve, but not always. It depends on the type of market, monopoly, oligopoly, but I'll be doing that in another presentation. Average revenue is defined as total revenue over the output. Output on the x-axis, price on the y-axis. Price in terms of costs and revenue, okay? So you've got a sharp increasing marginal cost function, MC, and then this U-shaped one is average total costs, or long run average costs is below that. The long run average cost is derived by ATC over the output. So long run average cost is always below the long run average total cost, okay? And just moving along. So back to that diagram, LAC, which isn't in this diagram, but I'll just visualize a little LAC. Where costs go down, that's economies of scale, but when LAC increases again, that's termed diseconomies of scale, where workers actually get in each other's way, containers wait in ports to unload, and the operation becomes too big. And that's the reason for economies of scale. But generally, when a firm gets bigger, they achieve lower cost per unit results. So that's economies of scale. For example, a bigger tractor and a plough. So you've got to identify the regions on these diagrams. If you see a long run average cost, what's economies of scale and what's diseconomies of scale. Now, getting back to that diagram, if a firm, you've got LAC, sorry, that one didn't have it, but I'll draw it on the whiteboard later. If the price is above that, LAC, that's profitability. If it's between LAC and short run, what's called short run average variable costs, that's you continue production, however you're making a loss. And if the price is below short run average variable costs, you go out of business straight away. So if the price is above LAC, they're making a profit, that's okay. If it's below LAC but above short run average variable costs, they remain in production, albeit they're making a loss. However, if the price gets below short run average variable cost, they go out of business. So long run average cost is defined as total average cost divided by a level of output. And you may be asked to calculate this in a table. I've got a set of questions at the end of this presentation in a table, and we'll complete the missing bits. So remember that formula, LRAC or LAC, long run average cost, is total long run total costs divided by a level of output, okay? So the numerator is long run total cost, the denominator is a level of output. Just one level of output, for example, 50 units of production or 60 units of production, not both of course, otherwise you couldn't do it unless you got an average, but it's just the one single level of output in that particular calculation. Fixed costs generally don't vary in the short term. They can, however, change. If a firm builds a new plant or purchases additional machinery, expensive machinery, your fixed costs would change. But generally what changes is variable costs, things like stationery, electricity, casual labour, and fixed costs, your machines stay, your tractors, your vehicles stay the same for the whole year or longer. So total cost is the addition of fixed costs plus variable costs. You're going to have to get used to fixed costs and variable costs. It's quite important in this part of the unit. And you'll have to know how these are expressed diagrammatically too, but I've got an example of a diagram later, so don't despair, we'll get to that. And yeah, so I gave that example about buying more plant and fixed costs would change then, but For our example, they don't change in a period of time. Only variable costs change. So what's short run? Remember, there's a difference between short run and long run. Short run is the immediate foreseeable future, perhaps a few months. Long run is longer than a year. Who knows what's the exact time difference between short run and long run, but short run is in the foreseeable future, say over the next quarter. Long run is generally over 12 months, 1 year. So short run total costs is adding up short run fixed costs plus short run variable costs. Remember that you find short run variable costs by short run total variable cost divided by a level of output. You find short run fixed costs by, oh, actually, sorry, that's not average. Sorry, forget I said average. That's just the short run total fixed costs, and that's short run total variable costs. So short run total costs is the addition of short run fixed costs plus short run variable costs. Okay, now we'll get to average. Short run average fixed costs are short run total costs divided by a level of output, one level of output. Okay, so that's the definition of short run average fixed cost. Okay, next definition, short run average variable costs are short run total variable costs divided by a level of output as well, one level of output. Now this time my source is www.topper.com.au. The date cited yesterday, September the 14th, 2021. And that's a diagram of short run average costs. And long run average costs would be, the bottom of most of those graphs would be touching it. Well, yeah, it would be. It would have to, otherwise it'd be a different production function. The bottom of the LAC touches all those SACs. So that's short run average costs. And if I was to draw a line here, that would be LAC long run average costs. So you might see that diagram or be asked to calculate it, or draw it rather than, and you might be asked to calculate it as well in a table. Marginal product of labour. What's that? That's the, if you're focusing on labour, workers, it's the increase in output from increased units of labour, more workers. It's the first derivative of the labour function, if it's there. What's marginal product of capital, MPK? It's an increase in output resulting from increased units of capital, the rate of change of capital. Also, it's another first derivative, this time of the capital function. Law of diminishing returns, I mentioned that in another presentation. That's when one factor eventually results in declining output, and then maybe even negative output. It can be expressed diagrammatically. I haven't got it here right now. But a reason is, say you're working in the garden after the 3rd and 4th hour doing heavy gardening work, your return in the 3rd and 4th hour will be much less than the 1st and the 2nd hour. It's the best way I can describe law of diminishing returns. Again, that can be expressed graphically, and that MP is marginal product. Now, marginal product is the first derivative of the production function. It's the extra increment to product. So when we talk about diminishing returns, the MP decreases, and then it may even go negative. Short run average fixed costs. Short run fixed costs over output, I think we mentioned that. Short run average variable costs is equal to short run variable costs total divided by the level of output. short run average total cost is short run total cost over output. So note the difference between average and total. You need the short run total cost to find that short run average total cost simply by dividing it by different levels of output in the table. So short run average total cost is the addition of short run average fixed costs plus short run average variable costs. It might be asked to complete that in a table, which we'll get to. And these can be graphed too, and I'll try and include some examples of that graphically on a graph a bit later I intend to do. So just again, if the price is between SATC and SAVC, the firm produces but at a loss. If it's above long run average cost, they're profitable, that's great. But if the price falls below SAVC, they shut down and go out of business, zero output. They get out of the industry. Producers place production where marginal revenue equals marginal costs for efficiency, and they want to raise the price above long run average costs. Okay, so that's where they put output, and where they want to price. But I've got a diagram for that. I'm just explaining it verbally. In the long run, output is where marginal revenue equals long run marginal cost, and price is set above LAC. Now that when you get to monopoly and oligopoly, that's just a simple example, perhaps perfect competition, but that can change with that topic. But suffice to say that you set the output where MR equals MC and price above the LAC curve. That's long run marginal cost too for the long run over a year. Oh, so yeah, great. That's the next presentation, types of markets. Now I want to get to some calculations. I can't wait. I'm going to have a lot of fun doing this. Now I can hear you groaning about calculations, but this will really help you practice. Okay, firstly, can you define profit? What is profit? Write down the formula for it. So profit pi equals revenue minus costs. It's the difference between revenue minus costs, and accountants in profit and loss statements calculate the revenue and the costs, COGS and other expenses, admin, marketing, but that's accounting. The economic definition is simply pi equals R minus C. Do you increase production if marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue? No, you don't. You want to scale down production back to where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Similarly, if MR was greater than MC, you would increase production to that optimum point again. MC equals MR. In this, I'll just get my calculator. We want to complete a table. Now, first of all, what is total cost? Well, this is an easy one. Total cost is simply the addition of fixed costs plus variable costs, okay? Might be new to you if you haven't done micro before or economics at school. So now we just add up these, or subtract rather, that's your total, that's your fixed cost, so 9 minus 6, 3, 12 minus 8, 4, 15 minus 12, 3. If my mathematics serves me correctly, 12 plus 3, yep. And 17 minus 13, 14 equals 13. So that's variable marks for that, an easy calculation, and they do ask these. complete the table, find short-run variable costs. First of all, what are short-run variable costs? We'll need a formula here. So let's start with short-run total costs. It is the addition of short-run fixed costs, fixed costs in the short term, plus short-run variable costs, our unknown, to complete the table and get the marks. So going on that formula, we just calculate the missing items. 11 minus 6, 5, 21 minus 7, 14, and 31 minus 8, 23. Okay, so we got a few marks there. Draw a diagram with long run average costs and short run average costs. Haven't got much room, but I'll just put it in here. It's that envelope type diagram we were talking about, but we're yet to do it. So quantity on the x-axis, costs revenue in terms of price on the y-axis. That's your long run average costs. Remember, long run average costs is defined as long run total cost divided by a level of output. So that output changes as we go along. That's increasing output, that's increasing revenue or costs, and conversely that's lower costs and lower revenue. So it's long run average costs, we said, is long run total costs over a level output. So we chose to calculate it for that, and that could be put in a table, or that one. So that's the region of economies of scale from there to there. Ec of scale is my little abbreviation. And in that region, past that, when LAC is increasing again, that's termed diseconomies of scale. And reasons for economies of scale: bigger firm, lower unit production. That's a lot of reason why the Australian car industry went out of business, because the cost per unit went up too high compared to other countries. Why is there diseconomies of scale and long run average costs going up? Well, people getting in the way in the workplace, not too many container ships waiting to get into the port. Production has actually gone too big. Maybe the managers aren't caring for their workers enough and ignoring them, and that's costly for the workers who like to feel as though they're being looked after in human resources. The firm just got too big. So what's a diagram with MR, MC, LAC and AR, AVC, ATC? Sounds difficult, but this is an easy one. So quantity on the x-axis, price on the y-axis. So MR slopes down below AR. Remember, MR is marginal revenue. AR is average revenue, where it's total revenue over a level of output. That can also be a price, the demand curve rather, where you find price, okay? But not always. It depends on the type of market: perfect competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, or monopoly, which I'll get to later. Next one, average variable. Well, let's do long run average costs first. I put that up there because below that you've got more often than not average variable costs here. They don't have to be. Sometimes average fixed costs could be higher. It just depends on the production process, how it's implemented, set up. But long run average total costs will always be higher in the diagram than both average fixed costs and average variable costs. Remember, if you add the two, that gives you long run average costs. So average variable costs and average fixed costs will always be below LAC. They have to be mathematically. Next one, I think we've just about got there. So MR, AR, and that's your revenue curves, and these are your cost curves. LAC, AVC in this particular production process, and average fixed costs. Next question, if the cost function is 4x squared minus 2x, find the marginal costs. Probably isn't the real cost function, but I just wanted to use this, an easy one. Okay, what is marginal cost? It is the first derivative of the cost function. So if you know how to find a first derivative in maths, that 2 you multiply by 4, 2 by 4 is 8x, and what's the first derivative of 2x? Simply 2. No constant here. So that one is the marginal cost. If the revenue function is 8x cubed minus 8x squared minus x, what's the marginal revenue? That's the revenue function. What's the marginal revenue? It's the first derivative again. So 3 times 8, 24x squared minus 2 times 8, 16x, and the first derivative of x is just goes to nothing. What is efficient production again? It's over to you. What's efficient production of output? If you answered marginal revenue equals marginal cost, you're correct. That's it. And very important for placing, there's our marginal revenue. And where's our, oh, we forgot to put in MC there. So that point there would be efficient. MR, that level of output, that one level of output. Say that was 16, this is an example. 16 units of production would be efficient, where MR equals MC. So we did miss one little thing in that diagram, the marginal cost curve. Alright, just some practice. And now we want to complete some tables. You'll get these all the time in micro, but they're not that difficult, believe me. We'll start with this one. If you know short run total costs and output, what's short run average costs? We'll write our little formula, and SRAC equals STC over output. That's short run total costs over output. So that's our formula to complete the table. Now it's fairly easy. So 7 over 100, 0.7, and these may or may not be realistic, I'm just plugging numbers in. 9 over 140, 0.006, round. If these are recurring, just round them to 2 decimal places. 11 over 180, 0.06 again, and 13 over 200, 0.07 this time. Maybe in this example I should have made the short run total costs higher numbers, but I'm just giving an example of how to fill in the table. They are real numbers. That is the formula. That those calculations are correct based on those figures. What is the formula for short run average total costs? That's a tricky one. Short run average total costs. Oh yes. Short run average total costs will be short run total costs divided by output. Okay, So the total over output to get an average figure. All right. Don't be confused with the two terms, because average total is just total for that particular calculation. Short run average total cost equals short run total cost over output. So average and total are the important keywords if you need to complete a table. Over this, what are short run average fixed costs? Short run average fixed costs are defined as short run total fixed costs, divided by a level of output. So based on that, our calculator again, this time we're going 90 divided by 10 to get the correct figure in the first one. 9. Remember, this is an average. These figures seem a bit more realistic than the other ones. 120 over 26, whole numbers too. 130 divided by 30. This time it's 4.33 recurring, so round it to 2 decimal places. Next question, what are short run average variable costs? So short run average variable costs, remember variable costs are variable, they change, like power, postage stamps, casual labourers. It's defined as the short run total variable costs divided over a level of output. And that output is on the x-axis at different levels of output, only choosing one level of output, for example 90. So this time around we go 30 divided by 90, 0.33. First one in the table, 60 over 100, 0.6, 90 over 110, 0.82 decimal places. Okay, so just know your formula for these calculations. If you're confident and happy that that's the correct formula, if you're in an exam situation, just go ahead and calculate it. It's just division to get easy marks. So there's just a few over here, a few people groaning, but practice makes perfect, as they say. Just a few more. Draw an envelope of LAC and SAC. We've had that actually. I'm repeating myself. We could do it anyway. Output price, LAC, just quickly, and there's SACs, SAC1, SAC2, there's short run average costs. Now in this diagram with demand equals AR equals P this time, and MR below D, and there's our average, should have put LAC here, and ATC is average total cost, AVC is average variable cost. That could be higher, it depends on how the plant's set up, but always below LAC, total LAC. So we've got 3 price points here, PA, PB and PC. That looks like an E, that's just a dot, let's make it a C. So we've got to identify which points are profitable, which point is profitable, 1 point, which point is making a loss but still continue in production, and which price point you go out of business, you shut down the plant. So that's for you, hopefully some of you will know. Firstly, price A, that's above LAC, that's okay, that's making a profit. So that's A. 2, the one that's making a loss but continuing production, well, that price is above average variable costs. Even though you're making a loss, it's okay to continue in production for the short term or intermediate term, just to see if things can recover and pick up again. For the final price point, C is below average variable costs. That's a no-brainer. We go out of business. If price is less than short-run average costs, that's short-run average variable costs, that's a danger sign. We leave the industry. Short-run average variable costs. And then B again, P above average variable costs, stay in business, out of business, and then P above long run average cost, which is a different cost curve. Variable costs are part of total costs, but you still got to consider fixed costs. P is greater than OAC, making a profit, that's okay. So finally, there's a few more. Describe these terms: economies of scale. Draw a diagram. Economies of scale is when firms get bigger and they lower their unit of production. What's productivity? I didn't have that, but I'll ask it anyway. It's still in the micro unit. Productivity is producing more at the same level of inputs. Efficiency, we've had that. Marginal revenue equals marginal cost. What's marginal product of labour? It's the extra output due to labour, and it's a mathematical first derivative of the labour function, MLP. What's marginal product of capital? It's the extra increment to output based on capital, extra machines, or maybe the machines have stayed the same. But at any rate, it's the extra output from either the same machines or more machines, okay? Depending on what investment decision has been put in place. Also, it's a first derivative this time round of the capital function, okay? So that sums up the presentation. I'm Stephen from TEFAT in Sydney, and I know it's a challenging unit, but revenue and cost, but not impossible once you go through it. Just do a bit of study, do your definitions, practice some calculations, completing tables, drawing diagrams, and you'll progress in this part of the unit. Thank you. Bye.